Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Ravens flock. For the first time this season, the Baltimore Ravens are over 500. They are 6-5. From 1-5 to 6-5. They were at 1-5 at the very depths of this division, at the very depths of the conference. They looked lost. They looked dead. They have fought their way back. They have climbed out of that hole, and they have officially reached over 500. Not only that, but with the loss of the Pittsburgh Steelers today, the Baltimore Ravens are tied for first place in the AFC North at 6-5. To make things even better, Baltimore has a better divisional record than the Pittsburgh Steelers, meaning the Baltimore Ravens are first place in the AFC North. They currently take that number 4 seed spot in the AFC playoff race. So if the postseason was to start today, the Baltimore Ravens would be in as the number 4 seed. That is crazy to think about, given the fact that this team was 1-5 just a month and a half ago, and it looked like all was lost. Everybody was hurt. We weren't quite sure when we were going to get Lamar back. Things were looking grim. A month and a half later, Baltimore's tied for first place, and if the season ended right now, they'd be in the postseason as the AFC North Division champs. That is crazy to see, but there is a lot of work that needs to get done between now and the end of the year. Baltimore's not out of it quite yet. In fact, this is only the beginning. Baltimore will be fighting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They will be fighting with the Pittsburgh Steelers for the AFC North crown, and it's going to come down to those two matchups. Matter of fact, the next 3 games will ultimately determine the season for the Ravens in terms of this division. They've got a short week this week. They've got to play the Cincinnati Bengals. Then they get 10 days off. They'll play the Pittsburgh Steelers. After that, they'll play Cincinnati again at Cincinnati. If Baltimore goes 3-0 in those 3 games, they will clinch the tiebreaker in the division because they will be 5-0 in the AFC North. And no matter what happens, if they finish the season with the same record as the Pittsburgh Steelers, they will be going to the playoffs as the AFC North divisional champs. So, with that being said, let's not look far ahead. Let's talk about today. As of right now, Baltimore is in first place in the AFC North at 6-5. They beat the New York Jets today 23-10. Let's get a little bit into this game. This is yet another ugly, gritty game here. The Baltimore Ravens have been winning some ugly games, which, on one hand, you never want to see your team have to participate in ugly games. You would rather watch them dominate. But on the other hand, Baltimore has not done a great job in winning these ugly games. They've done a really terrible job in winning ugly games. In fact, that's the games they lose. They'll usually dominate and beat a lot of these teams, including playoff teams. But when it comes to the ugly games of the past, they would constantly lose those games. Well, this year, they've been doing nothing but winning ugly games. And today was no different. Baltimore, defensively, they did their job. They held Tyrod Taylor and the Jets offense to 10 points. That's not really saying much because the Jets offense isn't great, and Tyrod Taylor had his first start of the season, but at the end of the day, the defense is doing their job. So I have to give credit to the defense for ultimately doing their job. You play who's in front of you, the defense is doing well. They haven't given up 20 points since, the Texans game when they got blown out? They're doing their job. The last 6 games, they have held opponents to under 20 points, and this right here is no different. They are doing their job. They also forced 2 turnovers. They forced a fumble, that was Marlon Humphrey, that stripped the ball out of Breece Hall's hands. And then you had the interception at the end of the game where Tyrod Taylor is just trying to get something going down the field, and TJ Tampa picks him off for his first career interception. So Baltimore in this game had 2 interceptions. They had 3 sacks on Tyrod Taylor. Jermon Jones had 1.5 sacks, so that's cool on that. He's been really great for the Ravens so far. So the defense got 3 sacks. They forced 2 turnovers, and they held the Jets' offense to 10 points. Right now, when I look at this Ravens defense, I feel like I can compare them to the 2017 Ravens defense. In fact, I think that's their ceiling. I think the 2017 Ravens defense is the ceiling for this year's defense. The 2017 Ravens defense was a bend but don't break type defense. They gave up a lot of plays, they gave up a lot of yards, but they didn't give up a lot of points, at least for the most part. And they created a whole bunch of turnovers. In fact, they led the league in takeaways in 2017 because they were racking up a lot of takeaways. That's how they were making stops. They were taking the ball away. A lot of movement was happening. A lot of big plays were happening. A lot of yards were picked up. But then you get into the red zone, and they would either make a stop or force a turnover. That's essentially what's happening with the Ravens right now. They're giving up a lot of yards. They're giving up a lot of plays. But when you get to the red zone, they either force you to kick a field goal or they're forcing a turnover. And that's exactly what was happening today. So the Ravens defense, they're doing their job. Shout out to them. Special teams today. Oh my goodness. This guy here. This guy, Jordan Stout, I cannot lie to you, man. This dude is emerging as one of the best punters in the game. He had a 74-yard punt in this game. That is his career high. He also had a 67-yard punt. Jordan Stout was doing everything in his power to make sure the Jets did not get great field position. He was doing his job to make sure the Jets had to move up and down that field that they wanted to put points on the board, which was difficult for them to do. So Jordan Stout, he was doing his job. He was getting it done. Shout out to him. Tyler Loop, he was making his kicks. He was doing what he needed to do. Another great day from Tyler Loop, man, 3 for 3 on his field goals, and he made both his extra points. At the end of the day, Tyler Loop was doing good. Jordan Stout was doing good. The punt team was doing their jobs, and overall special teams was fine. Didn't see any problem with them today. Defense was great. Special teams was great. Offense was not so great. For yet another game, the Baltimore Ravens offense looked bad. They looked bad. They looked pedestrian. They looked ugly. It was another type of scenario or another type of situation, where they didn't show up in the first half. They played ugly. They made adjustments. They played better in the second half. They did that last week against the Cleveland Browns. They did that the week before against the Minnesota Vikings. They're not starting off games well. They're playing terrible. They're holding on for dear life. And then in the second half, they make adjustments and play just good enough to win the game. That's not going to cut it down the stretch. Lamar Jackson is clearly playing hurt. He is clearly playing hurt, and you can see it. The guy is not able to take off. He's just not. 7 attempts for 11 yards for Lamar Jackson. He could not take off to save his life. He does not look like the Lamar Jackson we're used to seeing. And he also just was not in sync with his receivers today. Lamar Jackson, 13 to 23, 153 yards passing. No touchdowns, no picks. QBR of 34.6, passer rating of 76.9. That is not what we expect to see from Lamar. We know what we're getting from Lamar Jackson. He has not played up to the standards that he holds himself to, and he himself has admitted it. He does not like what's happening out there. He says they got to put more points on the board. They're not doing their job. Right now, they are not carrying their end of the bargain. They are underperforming, and they've got to do a better job of putting points on the board. The offense has got to get it together. Lamar is playing hurt, and you can see it. So it's not like there isn't a reason as to why they're looking bad offensively. But more so than Lamar, it's two things. One, I think the play calling in the first half is just not cutting it. I don't know what is changing between the first half and the second half. We're seeing Todd Monken make the adjustments, but I don't know why we're starting games off so poorly. We'll come out of the locker room, come out of halftime, and play better in the second half. But the way we're starting games, we're looking terrible to start games. We had 3 points in the first half. We come out in the third quarter, we score 14 points. Like, we shouldn't look like this. How do we go from scoring 3 points in the first half to 14 points in the third quarter? We're making the adjustments. That's great. I like to see our offense making the adjustments in the second half. But how are we starting games that slowly? How are we looking that poorly to start games off? That's not a good thing. Play calling plays a role as to why we're looking so poorly on offense. But execution on the field is a second aspect, and it's honestly the main aspect as to why we continue to look pedestrian as an offense. At the end of the day, this offensive line stinks. We know it stinks. It's another day where the offensive line was terrible. Ronnie Stanley, when healthy, is great. He was good today. Roger Rosengarten has shown some regression. Tyler Linderbaum, he was fine. He's doing what he needs to do. Although he had a couple of snaps today that was just going too wide to the left, too wide up. He was kind of iffy on some of the snaps today. I don't expect to see that from him consistently, but he was iffy with some of these snaps. Lamar had to really reach out to get some of these snaps, so Linderbaum cleaned that up. But other than that, he was doing what he normally does. So yeah, Stanley was solid. He was great. Linderbaum was doing what he normally does. Rosengarten has clearly regressed, but he's still solid. Voorhees and Falele once again did not look great today, and it plays a role. Derrick Henry was not able to run the ball as effectively as he would want to. 21 carries for 64 yards. That's just not Derrick Henry-like. We're not getting enough production from the running game. We didn't even run for 100 yards in this game. We can't run the football because our offensive line is soft. Our offensive guards are terrible. They cannot block. We cannot get any push from this offensive line. So because of that, we can't run the ball. To make matters worse, because our offensive linemen can't block, particularly our guards, Lamar is constantly under pressure and he never gets time to throw. It's problematic here. It really is. The Ravens were able to get things going in the second half here. Zay Flowers, once again, leading the charge with 58 receiving yards. Could have had more, but again, things weren't exactly going the way the Ravens wanted to offensively in the first half. They started getting the ball into Zay Flowers' hands more in the second half, but it is what it is. Devontae Walker had a sighting. Someone finally decided to put him on the field and give him an opportunity instead of sitting back and letting him sit on the bench. With no Rashad Bateman, why is Devontae Walker not playing? Why is he not getting more snaps? I don't understand it. But they put him out there, and he actually ended up getting a catch. It was a big reception for 30 yards. Devontae Walker, again, he is showcased when he's on the field and you give an opportunity, he can make plays. I don't know why he's sitting on the bench. He can make plays. I know they like Tylan Wallace. I got a lot of appreciation for Tylan Wallace because he is an underrated guy on this roster that makes plays when you give him an opportunity. But Devontae Walker has clear talent. He showcased it. Why are we not playing him? So yeah, the offense is just kind of a mess right now in terms of execution. I will give them credit though. Baltimore is not committing a lot of penalties. The offensive line does not commit a lot of penalties. So if there's a positive to talk about the Ravens offense, they don't commit a lot of penalties. The offensive line doesn't commit a lot of penalties. So that's a good thing to say. They're not committing a lot of penalties. The problem is they can't block. And when you can't block, that's an issue here. So overall, when you look at this game, the defense did their job. They were great. Special teams did their job to make it harder for the Jets to move the ball down the field because they were constantly placed deep in their own territory. And the Ravens offense once again got bailed out by the defense in the first half and then started to show up in the second half. 3 points in the first half, 20 points scored in the second half. I mean, it's just like you can clearly see that if this offense can play 4 quarters consistently, they can do something. But putting up 3 points of offense in the first half to the Jets is unacceptable. Great that you scored 20 in the second half, but you should have had 3 points of offense in the first half. They've got to do a better job of executing for 4 quarters. They're not doing that right now. And until they do that, they're going to continue to have struggles like this. And they can't afford to struggle this week. I'm glad they got the win. You're 6-5. You're first in the AFC North right now. But you don't have time to focus on that. You've got to put that aside. The Ravens are playing on a short week. They play on Thanksgiving. They're taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals are coming to Baltimore. Now, the Bengals right now, their season is probably over. They're 3-8. Things aren't even looking like there's a chance to do anything in the AFC North or in the AFC in general. Like, they're not going to get a wild card spot at this point. So they would have to win the division. But both Baltimore and Pittsburgh right now have the advantage over Cincinnati. Now, who knows? Cincinnati, if they can win all their divisional games and get a little bit of luck to fall on their side with the Ravens and the Steelers just losing out, maybe Cincinnati can get back into it. But realistically, I just don't see that right now. But we'll see what happens Thursday night. Maybe we get Joe Flacco. Maybe we get Joe Burrow. Either way, a quarterback named Joe is going to step foot on that field to take on the Ravens. We'll just have to see which Joe we're going to play up against. But for this game, there's not much left to say. The Ravens offense really has to perform better. Lamar is playing hurt, but Lamar has standards that he holds himself to, so he knows he has to play better. The offensive line has to do a better job of protecting Lamar. We've said this every week, and they continue to be poor. I would love if the Ravens would make a change. Emory Jones, he was active for this game, and he never stepped foot on the field. He didn't take a single snap out there. Why? Like, you have an opportunity to make changes, and they don't do it. You have Devontae Walker. He has shown flashes when he's been out there. You're giving the ball. He can make plays. He's on the bench over Tylan Wallace. I don't understand this, especially with Rashad Bateman not out there. It doesn't make sense. But this is just some of the things the Ravens are doing. It feels like they have some potential weapons on their roster that they're not utilizing, and they're sticking with some of these guys, and it leads to some of these troubles. If you would put in Emory Jones and Ben Cleveland, you might have a better look with the offensive line. If you would give Devontae Walker more opportunities, you might have a better chance to be able to make plays down the field. But it is what it is. you can't really, do anything about it as a fan. You just sit here and hope for the best. But the team won. It's not a pretty win. It's an ugly win. They've been winning a lot of ugly games. You'll take them. At the end of the day, a win is a win in the National Football League, especially when you are fighting for your playoff life or you're fighting to try to win the division. At the end of the day, our goal is to win these games. We were 1-5. We needed to go 5-0 by the time we matched up with these divisional matchups against our rivals in the Bengals and the Steelers. Now we're here. We handled business, went 5-0. We're first place in the AFC North. Now it's time to finish the job. We've got 3 games against 3 rivals. Bengals coming to our building for Thanksgiving, 10 days off. Steelers coming to Baltimore. Then you play the Bengals in Cincinnati. After that, you get the last big test of the season because we are taking on the New England Patriots after we take on the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. So we'll see how things go down the stretch. But as for this game, the Ravens got the win. You're happy for that. They're 6-5. They're finally over 500. You just move on from that and pay attention because Cincinnati will be here in 4 days. Not even 4 days. They'll be here in 3 days. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to be here soon. We play on a short week. There's no rest time. And the thing that makes it even worse is Kyle Hamilton suffered an ankle injury at the end of this game. So I don't know if Kyle Hamilton will be good to go for Thursday. We'll have to find out within the next 48 hours. It's going to be concerning. I don't know what to say, man. But, yeah. Ravens get the win. They're 6-5. Congrats to the Ravens for getting the win. It's not easy to win in this league, especially when you're 1-5 and you're trying to fight for your life. It's not easy, but you got the win. Cool. Move on from it. Get ready for Cincinnati on Thursday. With that being said, guys, that is all I've got for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Be sure to stay safe, and peace out.